Hi, my friends. Welcome back to the channel. Hope you guys are doing fantastic. So this guy right here, another guy that is talking about things that he doesn't know. By the way, subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification so you could be notified, right? This guy's saying that an 18-year-old can walk into a store and buy an AK-15 automatic weapon. So I was thinking to myself, well, there is not an AK-15 automatic weapon. There's not. And an 18-year-old cannot walk into a place and buy an automatic weapon. It doesn't work that way. There's people that have automatic weapons, but they spend hundreds of thousands probably of dollars in background investigation. They did 1,000,002 investigations by the ATF and everybody else in the books, right? They pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars in fees. And maybe after a couple years or whatever, how long it takes, how long does it take to get a suppressor? People talk about 7, 8 months all the time. After so much time, maybe they could get it. But an 18-year-old doesn't walk into a place and walk out with an AK-15 automatic weapon. Now, you could argue the fact that an 18-year-old can walk into a place and to correct this individual because he's not educated, could buy an AR-15 semi-automatic weapon. You could say that, right? Because he said that it blows his mind, right? You could argue that. Well, why? Why would it blow your mind, sir? If we are allowed to send 18 years old to die for our country, does it blow your mind while 18-year-olds are fighting in Afghanistan and dying for our country? Supposedly to defend our freedoms? To later on, 20 years later, to witness the Taliban taking all our equipment and to witness then flying our helicopters while they were hanging people? Yeah, we did fight for our freedom, didn't we? So did that blow your mind that an 18-year-old can die for our country with an M4 rifle? So here's the point why I say that. If you are old enough to go and die for our country, you are old enough to buy a gun. You are old enough to drink a beer. You are old enough to buy cigarettes. Although I don't recommend an 18-year-old to drink beer and buy cigarettes because, I wouldn't recommend you to do that, right? As 41-year-old and, a person that have done that and, a little wise and I want to give you some good advice as a young fellow, I wouldn't recommend you to do that. But if you can die for our country, you should have the freedom to decide on those things, but you're not. So what it blows my mind is that you could die for our country, but you're not allowed to buy an AR, not an AK, semi-automatic, not automatic weapon. That's what blows my mind. So because there is psycho people that were raised wrong, there is psycho people that were abused by their parents, there were psycho people that were, everybody failed them in the schools and everywhere, and then I like to say that we're possessed by demons because only a demon will murder children. Because those psycho people are out there. Are we going to say that every 18-year-old cannot buy a gun? I don't agree with that. And if we say, here's something else that I would agree. And if we say that, yes, 18 is too young to buy a gun, then I say that 18 is too young to die for our country. So if you say, hey, you know what? The age to buy a gun is 25 because that's when I feel that you're mature, then we should change the age to die for our country. Should be 25. So make up your mind. Really make up your mind. But that's kind of like a side ramp on this. I always have this opinion. Let's listen to this guy. Let me start it over right here.
And we lack it right now in this country. It's a shame. Highland Park, Uvalde, Greenwood, Buffalo. I mean, when is it? When does some common sense come into play, and when does this end? When do our elected officials actually do something about it instead of their own political gain? And both sides are completely wrong. I'm not anti-gun, but I'm anti-military style weapons. That it blows my mind away that an 18-year-old kid can walk in and buy an AK-15 automatic weapon. That makes no sense. Zero. I just wanted to open up, and it's a shame that we live in a country that can't come to agreement because of politics on doing the right thing for our country. It makes zero.
These people, you got to believe these people. They tell you that they believe in the Second Amendment and they're not anti-gun. At the same time, they're passing laws that violates our Second Amendment right. Let me tell you something, sir. You are mistakenly. Our government has done a lot to prevent this, if you want to call it that. But in theory, what they have done a lot of is to take away our rights. There is background checks that you got to do, right? There's background checks that you got to do. There is an age requirement that you got to do. In some states, you cannot even carry a gun because they violate your Second Amendment rights and they violate the right that you have to protect yourself. There is magazine restrictions. There is barrel restriction. There is all kind of different things. Rate of fire restriction. Obviously, you cannot have an automatic weapon. So there is 1,000,002 gun laws in the book. There is gun-free zones like schools where you're not allowed to have a gun. Our government has put 1,000,000 laws against guns in the book, but it continues to fail because these people are looking essentially looking for self-targets that they can harass, and they're taking advantage of those gun laws that are in place, like gun-free zones, to harass those people and victimize those people. So the government has done enough of taking away our rights, right? What the government needs to do is stop taking away our rights, figured out that the only way to protect our children and protect the people from bad people is to have a gun. Every single day we see it. Bad guy attacks a good person with a gun takes a gun out, and it's done. The fight is over. Good person protects himself. So the whole gun laws already being done, already being put in place. The guy in Parkland, by the way, used a restricted magazine, which is a gun law, and he still was able to murder 17 people. And he didn't murder more people because he stopped. You guys are aware of that he stopped. He walked out, right? Because the cops didn't do anything. He just walked out and left. If he wanted to, he could have murdered more people, right? So gun laws don't stop bad guys from committing crimes. What stops a bad guy from committing crime is a good guy with a gun. It's plain simple. We see it every single day. So the government needs to do something. You're 100% right. Needs to put security in a school. Needs to make sure that crazy people don't look at those places like self-targets and harass them. So anyways, you know what? Our government could have done something when all those cops stood outside and allowed those children to be murdered. So if you continue to say the government was there and the government did nothing. The government was there. People, do you guys heard that? The government was there. We have pictures of the government there, and they did nothing, and they allowed those kids to be murdered. Let me know what you think. Put comments down below. And as always, God is in control.